Hi. So, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It's election day, so it's kind of crazy here in downtown LA. Everything's boarded up, but we're gonna get through it, and it's gonna be okay either way.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just a crazy time that we're living in general.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just wild.
So let's talk about some Hollywood stuff because I feel like that's what everybody needs right now during these crazy times.
Exactly what we need.
Um, Right. So one thing I haven't talked about yet on the show, I've talked to actresses, producers before, but what drew me to you was that you're signed with Heyman and I'm signed with Heyman. So I think something that would be really cool to talk about would just be, you know, I bet a lot of people are curious what that process is like, finding an agency and getting an agent. So would you kind of walk listeners through what that's like?
Yeah, for sure. Um, I think it's also interesting that you brought this question up because I also teach an online acting class. And this is always the first question. Everybody wants to know how to get an agent and what does that process look like. So I mean, I guess I'll just go over the basics. Like for wherever you're living, you want to first do your research and figure out who the most reputable agents are in your market. Um, and then once you find that, you can, every agency is a little bit different, but generally speaking, once you find the agency you want to sign with, you can go to their website and they'll have like a little tab that says, new talent or join us or submit here or whatever the case. So you click that, fill out all your information. And then I think the most important parts of submitting for an agent are including your resume and your training. And then also sending in really good pictures, because that's how they're going to determine if they, think that you have a marketable look, if they want to sign you, etc. One of the big thing I always tell my students is if you don't have professional headshots yet, you don't have to go get them. You don't have to, I mean, they're really expensive and it's important to have them as an actor. But if you're just now like looking for an agent or looking for representation and you don't have professional shots just yet, don't worry. It's not a requirement to get signed with an agent. You can just use your own camera or your smartphone. I mean, like all the smartphones have amazing cameras now, so you can, that's totally fine and acceptable to use your own phone. And then just, yeah, taking really clear pictures, make sure the images are not blurry. Never use a filter, ever. No filters. Ideally, you want to be like in front of a blank wall, kind of like what I am. I know you can't see this, but it's a totally blank wall. Yeah, I guess those are my tips. Most important pictures to send would be one headshot, which is generally from shoulders to just above the top of your head, smiling with teeth. And then the other shot you'd want to send is a full body, so all the way from your toes to the top of your head. Those are the two most important shots. I'd say send those in, and then you just gotta, wait to hear back. If the agents are interested and they see that your photos look good and you're taking this seriously, they look fresh and clean and natural, they're gonna contact you. So when they contact you, generally they will either schedule an in-person audition, or I know a lot now is virtual auditions or a virtual interview just to get to know you. So, and then from there, it's, just let your personality shine and prepare whatever they ask you to prepare, whether it's a monologue or a commercial script or what have you. So, yeah, and then it's up to you after that. But those are the basics. That's the basics of getting started to find an agent.
Yeah, I remember when I was going to Heyman and I didn't have anybody to tell me any of these things. So I did get the headshots done and nobody told me that it was more marketable to smile. I thought that they had to be like a little bit more serious. So mine were pretty serious. And I remember the agent telling me, like, you have to have headshots smiling. So what I think is really interesting, and this is just from my personal experience, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I walked into that interview thinking there's no way I'm getting signed, just because it was kind of like, I don't want to say that they were mean. They weren't mean, but that's the industry. Like, I feel like it's kind of rare. You know, I did a bunch of auditions, and I think it's kind of rare to have somebody be like, "Oh my gosh, like, we love you, and you know, you're in already." Like, they're never going to say that. So you might walk away feeling like, "Ooh, I'm not so sure." But turns out like they did love me. They were just being very blunt. And I think another thing too is that I know now that I wish I would have known then. If you are looking to get headshots and you want kind of more of a professional look, but you don't want to pay money, like a lot of money for it, a lot of photographers will do like trade for print shoots. So if you're willing to model for them for free, they're willing to do your headshots for free to build both of your portfolios. Now with that, you know, you're kind of winging it on what the style is going to be like, what the editing is going to be like. But I think that sometimes that might be a better option if you want to come across professionally. What would you say to that?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think that's a great idea. I think if it's a trusted photographer, especially if it's just some rando off the street, want to take, no, run away. Right. But yes, if it's a trusted photographer, yeah, that's a great starting point. Why not? Yeah. If you feel like you are not confident in really like taking your own pictures, or maybe they're not good enough, but you don't want to invest in the super professional headshots just yet. Yeah, absolutely. Doing the trade for pictures is a really good deal for a lot of people. Absolutely. I would tell people just starting out, you never pay for an agent. They take commission off of your paychecks when they book you work. Yes, absolutely. You pay for your headshots. Yes. You pay for your training. Yes. You do not pay for an agent. If they are promising you the world, but you have to take their workshop and it costs you $5,000 and then you have to pay them a fee to get signed. No, just run away. It's a scam. You do not pay up front for an agent. They will book you the work, and then you pay them once they make you money. They make money.
In Ohio, there's a few different agencies that you can sign with, but you just kind of know because they're not everywhere. You just kind of know which ones are legitimate, which ones are a little bit scammy. Out here, it's like people are posting on Facebook that they're modeling agents and to come sign with them, and it's just so crazy. But you know, you've mentioned that you teach classes, but besides teaching classes, you're obviously an actress, and you were in Mindhunter, which I've mentioned on the show is one of my favorite shows. And I'm just curious. So you worked with David Fincher, who is a director and producer. He's produced things like Seven, House of Cards, Zodiac, Gone Girl, things like that. What was it like to work with such a huge name in the industry? And what was it like to be on that set of like such an iconic show?
It was amazing. I mean, like, it's honestly one of my favorite memories. It's just one of my favorite experiences. It was only a 1-day shoot, but it was a principal role. You know, when I first started, I was an extra in movies. You know, everybody starts somewhere, so I did that. But extras are not recognizable. You don't get paid. It's like, you know, a long haul being an extra. So I booked this principal role. So you are recognizable and your character is integral to the plot. So I was so excited, but it was a small scene, and I figured, oh, okay, I'm probably going to be working with the second unit, you know, the second unit director and all so it's not going to be David Fincher. I'm not going to see Jonathan Groff or all the leads, you know, I'm on the second team, whatever, our second unit. But then when I went there for the wardrobe fitting, they said, okay, we've changed, you know, we changed the date of the shoot because the inclement weather. So we had to switch dates. And they said, okay, just so you know, first unit is running this scene and David's going to be there and direct you. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry. Did you just say David Fincher was going to be directing me? So yeah, so I was ecstatic from that moment on. It was amazing. It's not like, you know, it was one day I was driving this 1970s Pinto wagon around a small town in Butler, Pennsylvania. That's where the location was. And in my scene, I drive this car up to a driveway and I'm getting groceries out of the trunk. And then the serial killer, Dennis Rader, is stalking my character. He sees that I have a husband who comes out to help me with the groceries and then figures, okay, she's got a husband, and he drives away and he doesn't pursue murdering me, I guess.
Thank God.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Maybe if I would have got murdered, I could come back for a second episode and get murdered or something. No. So yeah, I literally drove this 1970s Pinto wagon around in circles for like 8 hours, and David Fincher was amazing. He came up to me and the actor who was playing my husband in the beginning. He introduced himself, gave us the rundown of what we'd be doing. And then kind of like in the middle of the day, came back over, gave us some notes and some direction. And then when we were done, he came back over again and said, thank you guys so much. Great meeting you. Shook our hands. And that was it. And then we were whisked away back to our trailers and to finish the, because of all those movies that David Fincher has directed, I like to imagine that he and Brad Pitt are besties. And I was just that much closer to getting in the club. And
You're 1 degree from Brad Pitt. Yeah.
There you go.
On such a big set like that, although you were a principal role, I mean, there's like huge actors and the set is huge. So the fact that he took the time to like talk to everybody and introduce himself, give you guys notes, I feel like that's the mark of a good director. And that's why his movies are so recognizable, because it's not just about the main characters. It's about every single person that is put on that screen and put behind that screen, behind that camera. There's kind of a theme. It's very interesting. He's a dark director. I mean, Seven is dark. Gone Girl is dark.
Yeah.
House of Cards in many ways is dark. Mindhunter is about this idea of serial killers being created. David, if you're listening, we both would love the show to come back. We will also both work on the show if you'll have us.
We'll work for cheap, David.
I just want to be there. I just want to experience it. I don't even need to be on camera. I'll just sit back and watch, honestly. Speaking of commercial work, I know that you have both commercial and on film. Just curious, which is your favorite and why?
They're both so different from each other. Just everything is complete. The acting is completely different. It's 2 completely different styles of acting, which is fun. So I like being able to do all the different things. Like sometimes you're doing the commercial and the happy, I'm selling you this product. And sometimes, it's a way dialed down. You're on film, realism, all that stuff. Which do I like better? I don't know. I guess at the moment, I would go back and forth, and it's impossible to choose. But I guess at the moment I would say commercial work. I would say the reason is because I just feel like I kind of have a knack for commercials. Like I feel like commercials are definitely my forte. And it's always really quick, it's usually a 1 or 2 day shoot. You're in, you're out, you work a couple of days, you're done. It pays really well. And it's generally usually something happy or fun. You're selling a product, so whatever, that's all fun. Whereas if it's like a very serious film role or something that could, while very rewarding, is also very stressful. And you're talking long, 12, 14-hour days, day after day after day after day. So I don't know. Yeah, they're both awesome. I guess at the moment I'd say commercial work. That's a hard question.
Yeah, commercial shooting is short and sweet, and everybody's kind of there to just have a good time. And with film, it's like you said, it's drawn out. Sometimes you're doing the same scene over and over and over to really hit that mark. I was doing a commercial last year, but I remember one thing really stood out to me. The director, we did a scene probably for an hour and a half of like 3 lines because we were in a library and he couldn't figure out where he wanted the placement of these 2 books. And I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy. So for everybody listening and watching, the next time you're watching TV and you see a commercial, really appreciate the commercial, because everything, even to the placement of the background, is thought about. Yeah.
It's amazing how many hours and hours and hours of work go into a 30-second spot, a 15-second spot, and all these little cuts that are just go by so fast. It's like that one little blip of a scene took 8 hours.
Yeah.
It's
Think about
crazy.
that next time you're skipping through commercials on your DVR or on Hulu and
Oh
you're
yeah.
like, skip. Want to talk about your modeling experience just really quickly. So, what are some things that you want people to know about the modeling industry from your experience? Maybe newbies or people who might have some preconceived notions of what it's like.
Definitely for new people just trying to get started in the industry. It's important to know that I mean, like everything, I don't know if this sounds too basic, but it literally is a grind. It's not, oh, I'm just going to be discovered walking down the street one day and then I've made it and that's how it works. I mean, I went, even for acting, I would say this goes for modeling industry and actors. I went through a period where, you know, I wasn't getting anything, not booking any jobs, auditioning and submitting for everything, but not getting anything. And then all of a sudden for like a few months, I was just booking everything. Like everything I auditioned for, I got, and then I had conflicts with other things. I had to turn them down. And I was like, I've made it. This is
Mm.
it. I've arrived. And this is what my life is going to be like forever now. And then shortly after that, I went through a period of several months where I didn't hear from my agent at all and I didn't book anything.
Mm.
So I would just say, I guess, definitely don't think that it's steady work. It's not steady. It's a constant up and down and never knowing when the next job is coming, if you'll have another job, if you're going to have another audition or a submit or anything. So you have to really love it. You have to be passionate about what you're doing in order to keep a positive attitude and keep going. Cause yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'd say. Stay positive. Don't get down. They say, you know, that this industry, entertainment in general, is about 80% rejection and 20% success. So that's a really crappy ratio. So again, you have to stay positive. You have to really love what you're doing in order to, you have to have tough skin, in order to keep pursuing your dreams. So
Yeah, a lot of people that I know who ended up going into modeling over acting or who are doing modeling on the side of school or something like that to help them pay for school, thinking, oh, this will be easy, steady work. You know, I don't have to memorize lines. It's, you know, I show up and I do what they're telling me and then I go home. But it really is similar to acting in the way that it's so unpredictable and it's not steady work, you know, and also very similar to acting. You're not going in and making huge amounts of money every time you book a shoot. Sometimes you're doing a small shoot and spending all day there and really barely getting paid. When it comes to modeling, you know, as far as I know, the only steady work is fit modeling. And that's difficult to get because you have to be very specific with your measurements and you have to keep your body in a very specific shape and at a specific measurement to maintain your job. Which can be stressful, I think, on the body and on the mind as well. But at the same time, acting can in many ways. And if that's something that you're passionate about, go for it, I think, right?
yeah, you have to love it. You have to be passionate about it. And like I said, keeping a positive attitude, not only because you're going to get rejected a lot. So you have to just like not let that bum you out too much. You have to be able to keep going. You have to have a quarterback mentality. So like if Tom Brady, greatest quarterback of all time, or one of the greatest, throws an interception, he can't just dwell on the fact that he just threw an interception because that's going to mess with him the rest of the game and he's going to keep messing up and keep messing up. He threw that interception, he forgets about it, on to the next thing. So if you go in for a go see or a model callback or an audition or whatever and you mess up or it's not your best or whatever, forget about it. Keep going. You know what I mean? You just have to keep persevering. You gotta be strong and keep a positive attitude. And even when you're on set, that goes for when you're on set. When you do book a job, you have to be positive, be polite, and generally like pleasant to be around because that's how you're going to book more jobs in the future. If you're difficult to work with, if you're late to set, if you're any of these things, I mean, yeah, who's going to want to work with you again? So
I like to end with kind of a more fun and light question. And unfortunately, yours is a little bit morbid because we've been talking about David Fincher and Mindhunter, and I just wanted to keep on that theme. So, my question for you is if you had one day left to live, what would you do?
If I had one day left to live, I would say, aside from the typical spending time with my loved ones, and of course telling everybody how much I love them and how much they meant to me throughout my life and that everything's gonna be okay. On the crazy side, I don't know, maybe I'm basic. I would totally go skydiving and do all the craziest, base jumping, crowd surfing, anything dangerous. I would join Nitro Circus or like the Jackass crew, and I would go crazy with that because that's not something like I like to think that I'll go skydiving at some point in my life, but there's something like half of me is like, I don't know if I could actually do it. Like, I don't know if I'm brave enough to literally be in the plane and then like jump out. I might be too terrified, but if I was going to die anyway, then heck, I'll do anything. So there you go.
I love that. I love that.
Not acting related at all.
I love that you're like, I would join the Jackass crew. I would do the same thing. That's the exact answer that I would give. I like to end the show just cheersing to something positive going on, especially today being election day. There's a lot of bad vibes coming at us from all directions. So do you have something that we can cheers to close out this episode?
I do. And actually, since we're talking modeling and acting, I kind of was on the same theme. And saw this news article about H&M, the fashion brand. H&M established the world's first in-store clothing recycling machine. So basically in one of their stores, I think it's in Sweden, they have a machine in the store that takes all old clothes, tears them up into shreds and little fibers, and then it cleans and presses those fibers, weaves it into new yarn, and then makes new clothes from that.
Oh my gosh.
That was amazing. And the fact that H&M on their website, they're saying that like, hey, this is how we as a business are combating climate change. This is how we're being a positive force to fight climate change. I think they said like 10% of the waste, or don't quote me on this because I don't know the statistics exactly, but it was a huge number, like 10% of all waste in landfills is from fashion waste. So for them to be like, hey, we can take the old clothes, don't throw them in the garbage or in the earth. Let's tear them up, we'll make new clothes, and boom, there you go. So I thought that was really cool and positive for our industry.
Yeah, on episode 1, I talked to Reese Kasich, who's studying fashion, Governor John Kasich's daughter. She's studying fashion in Chicago, and we talked about that actually. Yeah, the fashion industry is a huge contributor to climate change, especially for these fast fashion, like ginormous brands that are constantly cycling clothes out of their company. They do have a social responsibility, and that's really commendable that H&M, being like a face of this fast fashion right up there next to Zara and Forever 21, is kind of being, the pioneer to do that and say, we actually care about climate change and we actually care about our customers supporting us doing this. So we're just going to put it in the store, and this is just the way it's going to be. And if you want to shop with us, you have to get behind this as well. That's awesome. Like, cheers to that.
Yeah.
That was a great story.
Cheers.
Thanks for bringing that.
You're welcome. I brought a glass of wine to cheers to them. I already loved H&M because they're so affordable, and now I even love them more.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You have been an absolute pleasure. You have the best energy ever.
Oh my gosh, Megan, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. I've loved talking to you, and I can't wait till we talk again.
Yeah, let's do it again in the future. I can't wait.